A loud but otherwise meaningless basket at the end of a recent Pelicans victory over the Suns has become the dunk heard around the world after Phoenix cried foul over Zion Williamson's last-second jam. The way the Suns and some old basketball heads see it, Zion broke one of the game's unwritten rules when he rubbed salt in their wounds in the final seconds of a win that was already safely secured. Perhaps the Suns are too frustrated by their own big game incompetence to realize that those unwritten rules are the ones made to be broken. A rivalry between the Suns and Pelicans began to bubble last spring, when New Orleans pushed top-seeded Phoenix to 6 games in a hard-fought first-round playoff series that saw Jose Alvarado frustrate Chris Paul by being a little too like Chris Paul.
He can be such a pest.
Williamson, as he was for the entirety of last season, was sidelined for that series. But with a healthy Zion back in the fold this year, New Orleans has raced to the top of the Western Conference through about a third of the season. The Pelicans had to leapfrog Phoenix to get there. So when the two teams clashed for the first of 3 matchups in 9 days, fireworks were expected. Sure enough, with the Pelicans up 9 in the game's dying seconds and the shot clock turned off, Zion provided those pyrotechnics with a 360 dunk that sent the home crowd into a frenzy.
It's over. Pels get it done. And on the spin and the reverse, the slam by Zion.
But the Suns didn't take kindly to Williamson's antics, sparking the age-old debate about the sports world's unwritten rules, which, in basketball, dictate that you don't run up the score with the shot clock turned off at the end of a guaranteed victory. There needs to be some room for nuance, though. Maybe if Zion was trying to break someone's ankles on the way to the rim or dribble through the entire Suns team in a meaningless end-of-game situation, I could understand the outcry. But one of the NBA's most exciting young superstars caught the ball with no one between him and the rim, in front of his home crowd, at the end of a hard-earned victory in a playoff rematch that kept his team in first place. And what, he should have just dribbled out the clock to avoid hurting his opponent's feelings? Can you really sit there and say that would have been a better outcome for the NBA? It's also rich that the Suns, of all teams, have a sportsmanship-related complaint.
Oh, that's rich.
If Phoenix wanted to do something about it, they had their chance in a rematch 48 hours later, which the Pelicans also won. At this point, the Suns' front-running, all-talk reputation precedes them. In a recent playoff rematch against Dallas, the team that absolutely embarrassed the #1 overall seeded Suns on their home court in Game 7 of last season's West Semis, Phoenix lost by 19 despite coming into the game once again atop the West. 2 nights later, they were run off their home floor by the Celtics. Then came the back-to-back losses to New Orleans. The point is, the sliding Suns have bigger internal issues to worry about than what teams beating them are doing at the end of games. But it's often the case that the hypocrites who cling to these archaic, unwritten rules are the ones too listless to actually do anything about them on the field of play. On the same night Zion enraged the Suns, Rudy Gobert rankled his former team in Utah by scoring when faced with a similar predicament.
Jazz still play hard down the stretch. Anderson will hold the ball. They'll give it to Gobert. Will he take the shot? Oh, he does. And that's not going to sit well with Jazz fans. You know what? Rudy could have done himself a favor just to hold it and say thanks.
Jazz guard Malik Beasley, who was part of the Gobert trade this past summer, even called the big man's late basket disrespectful. Never mind that if you watch that highlight again, you see the Jazz playing a pretty aggressive brand of defense, with the broadcast even mentioning that Utah was still playing hard, despite being down 8 points in the closing seconds. So the losing team should be allowed to keep playing hard, but the team cruising to victory should just stop playing altogether? This is where the very fabric of sports' unwritten rules comes apart at the seams. In baseball, it's expected the team up big in the later innings will be less aggressive at the plate and on the base paths. But is the team trailing not still trying to rally? Not still holding out hope for a comeback? If you want teams to stop kicking your ass, then either play better or collectively bargain for a mercy rule like they have at some youth levels. In soccer, players are expected to abstain from celebrating goals scored against their former clubs. You know, because it's not like those former clubs and their fans would celebrate at all if they won said matchup against an old friend.
They do that, don't they?
Pro sports are about competition and entertainment. As long as a player's not hurting anyone or being purposefully offensive, let them play. Let them have fun. Especially when we're talking about a guy like Zion Williamson, who knows all too well how fleeting and precious any healthy and successful moment on an NBA court is. If you're a fan, stop clutching your pearls over unwritten rules that you only seem to care about when the team you root for is the one that's been embarrassed. And if you're a player or rival team, either do something about it within the confines of the game you're losing, or shut up and stop whining. Unfortunately, in the case of the Suns, they don't seem capable of doing either.
Thanks for watching. If you liked this video and want to see more content like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button.